On my wedding day, I was drugged unconscious by my half-sister who had just been divorced and sent home. She wore my bridal gown and took my place in the bridal sedan, marrying into the Marquis's household. When I awoke, I caused a scene at the wedding hall, overwhelmed with shame and fury. My half-sister was ultimately confined to the family temple by the clan elder. After marriage, Marquis He Yuanju doted on me excessively until the day I went into labor and struggled with a difficult birth due to the baby's large size. He ordered the midwife to cut open my belly alive to retrieve the child. As I lay dying, I saw him enter arm in arm with my half-sister. If Rushing weren't infertile, I'd never have let you live this long. My elder sister held the child with a light laugh. You humiliated me that day. Now that you've borne this child for us, consider it your atonement. Go in peace from now on. This child shall be mine. I drew my last breath amidst the infant's cries. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to my wedding day, with joyous music filling the air. The bride is boarding the sedan chair. Mother, why am I here, supporting my dizzy head? I appeared before the gathered guests in confusion. Silence enveloped the surroundings. Then suddenly someone exclaimed in shock, "Why is Ruin still here? Who's the one in the bridal sedan?" I looked astonished. The bridal sedan, has the auspicious hour already arrived? My sister brought me a bowl of sweet soup earlier. I drank it and slept until now. From the back of the crowd, Auntie Zhao, who'd been watching the commotion, noticed me emerge. Her eyes darted nervously as she tried to slip away. My personal attendant blocked her way. "Aunt Zhao, wasn't it you and the eldest miss who delivered the sweet soup to the second miss's room together?" Aunt Zhao stammered evasively. "What sweet soup? I don't know anything about it," Mother said sharply. "Where is Rushing? Someone, go check the eldest miss's room, see where she is." I slightly covered the corner of my mouth with my hand. Where else could she be but on the wedding sedan? The maid rushed in with cold sweat streaming down her face. "Madam, the eldest young mistress isn't in her room, and her attendants have disappeared too." My maid Zhua came running in weeping. "Madam, our young mistress's wedding dress is missing too." One of the wives hesitated before saying, "Could it be that the eldest young mistress was the one who just got into the bridal sedan?" Her words shocked everyone awake like thunderbolt. The room erupted in chaos. "That can't be. Wasn't the eldest young mistress just sent back in disgrace? How shameless can she be, drugging the legitimate young lady and using such despicable means to take her place in marriage? What misfortune has befallen our family?" Father's face turned livid as he ordered, "Someone, stop that bridal sedan immediately." It was too late. Calculating the time, the wedding procession had already entered the gates of Zhenanhu Manor. By now, they were probably bowing in the marriage ceremony. What I wanted was precisely for He Yuanju and Ruan Rushing to consummate their union, to make the cooked rice irreversible, with tears streaming down my face. I shook my head and knelt at my father's knees. "Father, let it be. Elder sister has admired the Marquis since the first glance. She must have been driven to desperation to devise this scheme of substitution. I'm willing to yield this marriage to her. She's already been divorced once for being barren. If another scandal erupts, what will become of her future?" The reason for my stepsister's divorce had always been a family secret. By revealing it publicly now, I ensured the entire capital would know Rushing was cast off precisely for her infertility. Even if she married into the Zhennan Marquisate, she'd never securely hold the position of Marchioness. Would the old Dowager Marchioness ever consent to take a barren daughter-in-law? Her mother wiped away tears. "You foolish child. This marriage is yours. Once you marry, you'll become the Marchioness of Zhennan. You've been so open-hearted toward your half-sister, even willing to yield your marriage to her, yet she schemes against you like this. No, my daughter shall not suffer this injustice. Even if she marries into that family, I won't let her have an easy time." Her father glared darkly at concubine Zhao. "You vile woman, if you hadn't aided her, I wouldn't believe Rushing could have accomplished this alone." Concubine Zhao looked at him with delicate fragility, weeping pitifully like pear blossoms bathed in rain, hoping to evoke his pity. "My lord, Rushing is also your daughter. She and the Marquis of Zhennan are truly in love. Won't you grant them your blessing? It's already tragic enough that she was divorced and sent back home. Why must you push her further? I beg you, Let her have second Mrs. Marriage arrangement. Besides, judging by the hour, the wedding ceremony must have already taken place. It's too late now. Mother rushed forward and slapped her. What a cunning scheme, to actually harm my daughter. Guards, drag Aunt Zhao away, give her 20 lashes, and lock her in the woodshed. Aunt Zhao froze for a moment before shrieking, how dare anyone strike me? I'm the mother-in-law of Marquis Junnan. Father slammed the table and roared, silence, don't forget what you and your daughter have done. Ruin is also my daughter, the legitimate heir of the Marquis's household. How dare you scheme against her? Guards, gag her and drag her away. Aunt Zhao was immediately gagged by servants and hauled off to the woodshed. Just then, a guard entered and presented a jade pendant. My lord, he said, this was found in the young mistress's courtyard. Father took one look and sneered, what a fine Marquis of Junnan. I was wondering how Rushing managed to impersonate the bride and leave alone. Turns out he helped. Since that's how it is, don't blame me for tearing off all pretenses with them. I smiled coldly to myself. Earlier, I'd had a maid toss the jade pendant previously sent by the Marquis of Junnan into Rushing's courtyard, then arranged for guards to discover it. Now father would be convinced that my half-sister and the Marquis had long been carrying on an affair, colluding from within and without to stage this marital substitution. Father looked at me. Ruin, what do you think now? If you still wish to marry, I'll take men to the Marquis's residence at once and have her swapped back. I shook my head. Father, it seems my half-sister and the Marquis were already involved privately, and went so far as to set this elaborate trap to harm your daughter. Such a man, I won't marry him. Father nodded. Good, worthy of being my daughter. Then let's go to the Marquis's residence and cancel this marriage. When we arrived at the Jingnan Marquis's residence, the newlyweds had just finished their wedding ceremony and were about to be escorted to the bridal chamber. Hold on, Father interrupted the master of ceremonies' chant. The crowd was shocked to see Father, Mother, and me appear. How is Miss Wan here? Then who was the one bowing at the ceremony? What's going on? Why have the bride's parents come too? Are they escorting her all the way into the Marquis's residence? Yuanju looked at me in shock and exclaimed, Ruin, how did you wake up so quickly? His words instantly revealed their scheme of drugging me unconscious. I let out a cold laugh. Marquis, you and my stepsister drugged me unconscious so she could take my place in this marriage. You probably didn't expect me to wake up so soon and interrupt your little scheme, did you? My words sent shockwaves through the entire hall. The old Marchioness rose to her feet. Madam-in-law, what is the meaning of this? Hearing the commotion, the veiled bride suddenly lifted her bridal veil, her face turning deathly pale. Little sister, the Dowager Marchioness, why is the bride you? Yuanju, what is the meaning of this? I stepped forward. Sister, though this act of substituting brides brings shame upon our Duke's household, as your younger sister, I still came to offer my congratulations. I turned to the Dowager Marchioness. My lady, the Marquis and my sister were deeply in love but dared not inform their parents, hence they devised this scheme, drugging me during the wedding and having my half-sister wear my bridal gown to enter the marquisate. Had I not experienced it myself, I would never have believed the illustrious Marquis of Junnan could stoop to such deeds. Rushing's face turned pale as she staggered backward into Yuanzhou's arms. He looked at her with heartache before turning to me. Ruin, I've wronged you, but my feelings for Rushing are genuine. I only wish to marry her. Now that we've completed the wedding rites as husband and wife, I'll never let her go, if you're willing. I can take you in as an honored concubine, though I can't give you the status of principal wife. Everything else will be equal. Wouldn't it be better for you sisters to be together? With tears in her eyes, Rushing stepped forward and knelt before me with a thud. Little sister, I never meant to steal your husband. It's just that I truly love him. Please let me serve by his side. I'm willing to honor you as my superior. All right. I took a step back, watching them coldly with a mocking smile. What a pair of lovebirds, your affection stronger than gold. If Marquis truly cherished my sister, why didn't you inform the elders and marry her openly, resorting to such substitution tricks after all? My sister is the eldest daughter of Duke's household. Is she really that unworthy? Yuanju stammered. I was afraid you wouldn't agree. Now if you'd just nod your head, it would be best. would be family hereafter. I took the marriage contract from the maid's hands. Marquis, I refuse. Since you've married my sister, our engagement is hereby annulled. I wish you and Rushing eternal happiness, may you never regret it. With that, I tore the marriage contract to pieces and threw them on the ground. Mother looked at the old Marchioness with a meaningful smile. The Marquis is truly devoted. Though Rushing was divorced for being barren, he didn't hesitate to marry her as his principal wife. How touching. The old Marchioness turned pale. Barren, Rushing's face turned ashen. Never expecting her mother would reveal her secret publicly, this was tantamount to announcing to everyone that she could never bear children. Covering my mouth in feigned surprise, I exclaimed, "What, has sister not told the Marquis and the old madam yet? In my past life, I never knew when Yuanju learned that Rushing was infertile, but from the moment he got me pregnant, he had already plotted to kill the mother and take the child, in my previous life, until my death. The old madam never knew Rushing couldn't bear children. She had been recuperating in the detached courtyard. After I died, when Rushing and Yuanju brought my child to welcome her back, they told her it was Rushing's own child. The old madam adored the baby beyond measure, which was why she agreed to let Rushing be formally married into the family and elevated to the position of Marchioness of Junnan. Now, I'd like to see whether she can still claim that position without the old madam's approval. Father looked at Rushing and declared with resounding finality, "You framed your younger sister first, then stole her marriage prospects afterward, showing no sisterly affection whatsoever. You've shamelessly disregarded the dignity of our ducal household. Such an unfilial, rebellious daughter. From this day forward, the Reborn family disowns you. If you come home with me now and kneel before the ancestral hall to beg forgiveness, there might still be a chance, but if you persist in your delusions, from this day forward, you shall no longer be a daughter of the Reborn family." Rushing cried out with reddened eyes, "Father, am I not also your daughter? How can you bear to see your own child reduced to such a state? Your daughter only wishes to be with the one she loves. What crime is there in that? What wrong have I done by striving for the life I desire?" Father nodded. "Very well, from this day forth, you are no longer a daughter of the Reborn family, you're on your own now." Then he turned and ordered the guards behind him, "Men, take all the second Mrs. Dowry back." Rushing screamed, "Father, that's my dowry." Mother slapped her across the face. "Your dowry? When you married, I prepared 100 crates of dowry for you, enough to line 10 miles with red bridal gifts. And after all that, you ungrateful wretch still dared to steal Ruian's marriage. These 120 crates belong to Ruian now. You stole her marriage, and now you want to steal her dowry too. Don't even dream of it." All the guests were utterly stunned. A substitute bride. This concubine-born daughter is truly formidable. If it were my daughter, she'd be dragged out and beaten to death, from what the Duke of Wei's household implied. The Marquis of Junnan had long been carrying on with this Rushing. That's why they drugged the legitimate daughter together to pull off this bride-switching scheme. TCH. Consorting without proper marriage rights. How utterly shameless. From now on, who would dare associate with anyone from the Marquis of Junnan's household? One careless move and you'll be schemed against. Rushing threw herself over the dowry chests, wailing and refusing to let anyone move them. "If you want to take these away, first return my dowry to me." I laughed. "Sister, didn't you hear what father said? You're no longer a daughter of the Reborn family. Nothing belonging to the Reborns concerns you anymore. Dowry, go ask your birth mother for it." "Oh, I nearly forgot. Your birth mother, concubine Zhao, came from a brothel. She must still have a few taels from selling herself, perhaps enough to add a few chests to your dowry." The guards of Duke Wei's mansion carried out 120 dowry chests in a grand procession from the Marquis of Junnan's residence. The wedding guests who came to celebrate were thoroughly entertained by this spectacle. Before dawn even broke, news of the Marquis of Junnan marrying a substitute bride had spread throughout the capital, and so, the Marquis of Junnan's household became the laughingstock of the capital. It was said that the very next day, during the newlywed ceremonial greetings, another huge scene erupted. According to custom, the second day after a bride enters her husband's home, she must present gifts to the elders of his family. Among my dowry were items I personally embroidered for each of He Yuanzhou's elders, headbands, shoes, socks, and such. Rushing assumed everything in my dowry was complete and naturally didn't hurry, but last night the entire dowry had already been carried away, leaving her with nothing but her wedding dress. When she woke the next morning, she didn't even have spare clothes to change into. He Yuanzhou had no choice but to send the housekeeper out to buy ready-made garments, along with prefabricated shoes, socks, and handkerchiefs for Rushing's emergency needs. The elders of the He family looked at the tardy couple with displeasure. Seeing that the gifts they brought were merely store-bought items made them even more dissatisfied. Is this bride looking down on the He family? Who's ever heard of buying handkerchiefs from outside shops as greeting gifts? Utterly disgraceful. And what is she wearing? The stitching is so crude. Is this how the Duke of Wei marries off his daughter, so shabbily? Haven't you heard? She's no longer the Duke of Wei's daughter. Yesterday, the Duke publicly disowned her in front of everyone. Early this morning, the Yuan family opened their ancestral hall and struck Yuan Rushing from the family register. Yuan Rushing performed the courtesy with tears brimming in her eyes, her expression full of grievance. The old madam wore a displeased expression. I heard your baron, is this true? He Yuanzhou defended her. Mother, I'll have the imperial physician examine Rushing. There's surely nothing wrong. Back when she married into Qingju, she couldn't conceive because she wasn't accustomed to the climate. The old madam's face darkened. Yuan Rushing, you're a remarried woman. After much deliberation last night, I've decided to allow you into the household, but Yuanzhou is the heir to the marquisate. Our He family cannot have a divorced woman as the marchioness. Coincidentally, Yuanzhou's cousin Yuru remains unmarried. Today, before everyone, I'll make it clear. I intend for her to become the Marchioness of Zhennan. He Yuanzhou exclaimed urgently. Mother. Yesterday's wedding ceremony was witnessed by the entire capital. The old madam slammed the table. The scandal of yesterday's substitute bride has become the talk of the town. You've utterly disgraced our He family. How dare you mention it? Without proper legitimacy, how can it count? If you insist on marrying her, she can only be a concubine. The Zhennan Marquisate will never accept a barren woman as its principal wife. If you persist in marrying only Yuan Rushing, then someone else shall inherit the title of Zhennan Marquis. The Marquis of Zhennan's household consists of hundreds of people. This marquisate concerns our entire He family, not just your personal decision. You must choose between the marquisate and Yuan Rushing. He Yuanzhou turned his face away from Rushing's pleading gaze, knelt down, and said, Your son is willing to marry my cousin as my wife. Yuan Rushing screamed. He Lang. You swore that having me alone would be enough for your lifetime, that you'd give me the glory of being the marquise. Now you say you'll take your cousin as your principal wife. How could you do this to me? Unfortunately, no matter how much she cried or made a scene, it couldn't change the old madam's decision. She had already consulted with her maiden family and chosen an auspicious date to hold another wedding banquet, marrying He Yuanzhou to his cousin Song Yuru. When I heard the news, I nearly laughed aloud. In this lifetime, there was actually an additional Song Yuru. She was a renowned figure in the Marquis's household, having grown up with He Yuanzhou as childhood sweethearts and favored by the old madam. She commanded even more respect than the Marquis's own daughters. This was certainly going to be lively. 3 days after the wedding, Yuan Rushing unexpectedly brought He Yuanzhou back to the Duke's mansion. The gatekeeper saw them coming and immediately shut the door. The Duke has said there's only one young lady in this household, still unmarried and waiting in her chambers. How could there be a married daughter? Rushing flushed crimson with anger. Aunt Zhao is my mother. How dare you stop me? The gatekeeper sneered. A concubine isn't a proper mistress, she's a servant. And now her relatives think they can use the main gate. Must be out of their minds. By the rules, a concubine's relatives can only enter through the side gate, from that narrow alley. Then she casually pointed. Rushing shrieked. Once father's anger subsides, the first thing I'll do is skin you alive. The gatekeeper looked at her disdainfully. The Duke removed your name from the ancestral hall days ago. Now you're just a concubine of the Marquis's household. Don't raise your voice at me. Left with no choice, Yuan Rushing had to take He Yuanyuan through the side gate. He Yuanyuan, seeing the crowd gathered outside the mansion gawking at them, darkened his face. "Why should I, a marquis, enter through a side gate? Go yourself if you must. I never wanted to accompany you back anyway." Utterly disgraceful. With that, he turned and left. Wan Rushing was torn between visiting her aunt in the mansion and pulling He Yuanju along. In the end, she gritted her teeth and chased after He Yuanju instead. Aunt Zhao waited anxiously in the mansion for her son-in-law, the Marquis of Zhennan, to return with her daughter for the traditional third-day visit, hoping he would bolster her status, but they never came. When she saw me, though worn out, she still wore a smug expression. "Second miss, now that your sister has married well, if you please me, I might put in a good word for you when she returns. Who knows? You might even secure a place as a concubine in the Marquis of Zhennan's household." Covering my mouth, I laughed softly. "Oh, has Auntie not heard? Just now. Your daughter returned but was stopped at the main gate and told to use the side entrance. Your precious son-in-law flew into a rage and stormed off. As for your beloved daughter, she couldn't spare a thought for you, too busy chasing after her husband, and what's more, she's just a concubine herself. Yet she wants to take me in as another concubine. Where does she get such audacity?" Aunt Zhao widened her eyes. "What nonsense are you talking about? Rushing is the wife of the Marquis of Zhennan." I burst into laughter. "You still don't know. The Marquis's wife has already made it clear in a few days. She'll be marrying her own niece into the household, Song Yuru, daughter of the Chief Minister of the Court of Judicial Review. Now Rushing is nothing more than the daughter of a concubine. What a pity. Truly. Yesterday Auntie was locked in the woodshed. She probably doesn't know yet that elder sister has been expelled from the clan." With that, I turned and walked away, ignoring how frantically she stomped her feet behind me. On the day He Yuanju married Song Yuru, I deliberately had someone leak the news to Auntie and watched as she slipped out quietly through the side gate. The Marquis of Zhennan's household claimed that the previous ceremony had merely been for taking a concubine, and that this was the real wedding, though everyone with eyes could see the truth. They still gave them the courtesy they demanded. Quite a few people went to offer their congratulations. Song Yuru, veiled beneath a red bridal cover, blushed shyly as He Yuanju led her through the wedding ceremony. The master of ceremonies announced, "The rites are complete, escort the bride to the bridal chamber." Suddenly, someone rushed forward, interrupting the ceremonial chant. "Hold it right there." He Yuanju's brow twitched. Every wedding seemed to bring trouble. His face darkened ominously. Song Yuru lifted her bridal veil and demanded of the intruding concubine Zhao, "How dare you? Who are you to cause trouble at the Marquis of Zhennan's residence?" Concubine Zhao was strikingly beautiful and silver-tongued, dressed in shimmering moonlit silk that accentuated her delicate frailty. "My lord," she pleaded tearfully, "my daughter married you just days ago. Why have you demoted her from wife to concubine? What of the promises you made to me? You swore to love Rushing alone, vowed to make her your rightful wife. You deceived her into intimacy, manipulated her into betraying the Duke of Wei's household by taking another's place in marriage. Now you've ruined her reputation and wed another woman without hesitation. How could you face Rushing?" Her weeping was so heartrending that some bystanders stared transfixed. He Yuanju's expression darkened further, but Song Yuru wouldn't have it. She stepped forward. "Your daughter lacks propriety herself, seducing her cousin and sending poems to the Marquis's household daily. She's already a discarded woman. Who knows why she was sent back? Perhaps she inherited her prostitute mother's tricks and was divorced for promiscuity. Otherwise, what decent family's daughter would have physical contact with an outsider before marriage? If she hadn't allowed it, how could the Marquis have entered her boudoir? You raised such a fine daughter, bringing shame upon the Marquis by marrying into his household, and still having the nerve to say he wronged her. I am now the Marchioness. It's already magnanimous of me not to drive her out. If you keep making trouble, tomorrow I'll have the Marquis write a letter of divorce. Guards, are you all dead? Drag her out at once." With that, Aunt Zhao was gagged and hauled away. When night fell and it was time for the wedding chamber's candlelit ceremony, Song Yuru waited in vain for He Yuanju. Recalling what had happened during the wedding ceremony, she grew increasingly uneasy and decided to go look for him with her maid in tow. Little did she expect that halfway there, beneath the garden's arched gate, she would witness such a scene. Rushing, clad in sheer gauze, leaned against He Yuanzhou's chest, wiping her tears pitifully. "My lord, I didn't mean to delay your wedding night, I just wanted to see you one more time. I'm afraid once your lady enters your household, she'll never allow Rushing to see you again. My lord knows Rushing has always been timid, afraid to sleep alone at night. Could my lord stay with Rushing a while, just until I fall asleep before you leave?" She melted against He Yuanzhou's body, coquettish and pliant. How could He Yuanzhou resist? He immediately embraced her. "All right, I'll accompany Rushing today. I'll leave after you fall asleep." With that, the two embraced and entered Rushing's courtyard together. Song Yuru's eyes reddened with rage as she nearly charged forward, only to be pulled back by her nanny. After some hushed words, she was finally soothed. It wasn't until midnight that He Yuanzhou returned to the bridal chamber. Far from reproaching him, Song Yuru attended to him with gentle devotion, making He Yuanzhou feel that with such a virtuous wife and beautiful concubine, his life was truly complete. The next day, when the concubines came to pay respects to the main wife with tea, Rushing arrived late and said weakly, "Rushing greets Madam. I'm truly sorry, last night I was frightened, so my lord stayed longer in my chamber. Madam won't blame me, will you?" Song Yuru smiled and said, "What's there to blame, after all? No matter how long he stays, you still can't bear children. Next time, concubine Sheng, do be mindful and loosen your grip a little. Let the Marquis visit the new concubine's courtyard instead, so he can expand the family line for the Marquis's household." Rushing's face changed dramatically. "What new concubine?" Song Yuru clapped her hands, and two maids she had brought from her maiden home, Yumor and Yuchi, stepped forward. Song Yuru smiled and said, "These are my personal maids, carefully raised since childhood. I've already spoken to the Marquis. In 3 days, they'll be elevated to concubines. From now on, we'll all be sisters, so let's get along harmoniously. The two of them have been carefully nurturing their health and are most fertile. You must strive to expand the family lineage for the Marquis." Yu Mo and Yu Qi immediately responded, "Yes, madam." The old madam, seeing Song Yuru's virtuousness, was utterly delighted. She took her out to social engagements every day, praising her daughter-in-law everywhere for being both virtuous and capable, truly a blessing to the He family. Ruan Rushing was seen again at a banquet hosted by the Ruyang Marquis's household, where she accompanied Song Yuru to attend. Song Yuru's close friend leaned in and asked, "You're being too kind to concubines. Whoever heard of bringing a concubine out like this?" Song Yuru chuckled lightly. "She's the Marquis's favorite. How could I dare neglect her? Might as well bring her along. The Marquis dotes on her most. He spends half his nights in her chambers each month. Pity her belly hasn't cooperated. 6 months and still no sign." The lady scoffed disdainfully. She was cast out precisely because she couldn't bear children. Even if the Marquis visits her every night, she'll never conceive. Song Yuru sighed. "There's nothing to be done. The Marquis favors her, so I can't say much. I can only hope she'll be sensible and advise the Marquis properly herself." Ruan Rushing stood pitifully by the side, clutching a hand warmer. When she saw me enter, she called out, "Little sister." I turned to look at her and smiled. "Aunt Sheng, mind your words. You and I have no relation now. It's better to keep our distance." My young companion, seeing she still had the nerve to approach, immediately ran to Song Yuru and said loudly, "Madam must be careful. This woman is a viper that bites. Didn't she sink her fangs deep into our dear Miss Ruan back then?" Song Yuru smiled. "Sister Ruan has such a gentle temperament. If it were me, I'd fight tooth and nail until one side was utterly defeated." Just as she spoke, Song Yuru suddenly covered her mouth and retched dryly. I looked at her in delighted surprise. Could it be that the Marquise is with child? The words startled everyone awake. All the ladies present were experienced. They immediately summoned a physician to take her pulse. Sure enough, Song Yuru was already 3 months pregnant. Watching He Yuanzhou rush into the inner courtyard and embrace Song Yuru joyfully, Rushing stood nearby gnashing her teeth, her eyes brimming with envy and resentment. I remarked coolly from the side, TSK, men still value heirs above all else, no matter how many sweet words they say. Nothing compares to the joy of hearing there's an heir." Aunt Sheng should go get herself checked too, perhaps she'll conceive as well, Wan Rusheng shrilled. There's no need for your concern, sister. Song Yuru became pregnant within half a year of entering the household and was unbearably smug about it. He Yuanju accompanied her daily, and once her pregnancy stabilized, she summoned Rusheng to wait upon her personally. Yet strangely, after conceiving, spots began appearing on her face for some reason, and no matter what she tried, they wouldn't fade. Moreover, her body had grown swollen and increasingly unattractive. That day, while inspecting my family's jewelry shop, I saw He Yuanju accompanying Song Yuru inside. Song Yuru's belly was so large it looked as if she were about to give birth. He Yuanju froze at the sight of me. Dressed in a gown of moonlit brocade, I descended the stairs, leaving him utterly transfixed. Ruian, how have you been lately? I smiled faintly. Naturally, it's wonderful. I haven't yet congratulated the Marquis on the imminent addition to your household. Song Yuru covered her mouth with her plump hand and giggled. Miss Wan isn't married yet, is she? Surely she can't still be thinking of the Marquis. He Yuanju had already found her obese appearance distasteful, and his expression darkened at her words. Don't talk nonsense, Wan Rusheng chimed in from the side. Hasn't the Marquis always been concerned about your sister? Otherwise, why would he bring his wife to this particular shop? Isn't that right, madam? I turned around with a smile. You ladies are overthinking it. My father has already arranged a marriage for me. I'm only here to ask master to design some bridal headpieces. He Yuanju exclaimed involuntarily. You're getting married? I turned back. Indeed, if the Marquis has time then, don't forget to come for a celebratory drink. Without sparing them another glance, I boarded the carriage outside. Rusheng's voice came from behind. The Marquis claims he hasn't been thinking of her, so why this nervous reaction? He Yuanyu said irritably. You're just a concubine. What right do you have to question me like this? Aren't you tired of wandering around every day? I have official business to attend to. Go ahead without me, I need to get to work. I laughed inside the carriage. What did all those grand vows and sweet nothings amount to? Nothing more than this. From that day on, I grew suspicious. Why did Song Yuru's pregnancy symptoms seem so exaggerated? I began investigating quietly behind the scenes. It turned out that Rusheng had secretly met with the concubine outside and obtained some prescriptions from her. According to informants in the concubine's courtyard, the concubine had whispered to Rusheng, "Don't use it too much, just a few doses can make a pregnant woman grow obese, causing the fetus to become too large for delivery." Song Yuru's sudden and excessive weight gain must have been caused by Rusheng administering potent medicine. Only then did I realize why. In my previous life, my body had ballooned like an inflating balloon after I became pregnant. The next day, the gatekeeper delivered several gift boxes. Upon opening them, I found newly crafted silver hair ornaments from the jewelry shop adorned with silk tree flower patterns, a design I had always favored. The servant who delivered the items said, these were sent by the Marquis of Zhennan, specifically for the young miss. For several consecutive days, jewelry, silks, and jade wares were continuously delivered to the Marquis's residence. Utterly exasperated, I instructed the matron to pack all the gift boxes onto a carriage and return them in one go to the Marquis of Zhennan's estate, along with a message, our young miss is soon to be married, and her future husband will take care of her clothing and accessories. There's no need for the Marquis to trouble himself. Rusheng refused to let it go either. Marquis, back then, I ruined my reputation for you and offended the entire household for your sake, only to be cast out. Now you're eagerly sending gifts to Rusheng. Do you regret it? Do you regret not marrying my sister because you despise me for being barren? I've lost everything for you. How could you betray me like this? Sneaking around with Ruian behind my back, you promised to marry only me, yet not only did you marry Song Yuru, now you want Ruian too. Where does that leave me? Upon hearing this, Song Yuru mocked Rusheng the next day. Who do you think you are? Just a concubine. Yet you dare to vie for favor. Rusheng flushed with anger and shoved her away. And what are you? Just a breeding tool. Do you think the Marquis actually likes you? The sight of you makes him sick, fat as a pig, ugly as sin. He'd be ashamed to be seen with you. If it weren't for your father's recent promotion, he would have divorced you already. Just wait and see once you've given birth. Watch whether he touches you again." Song Yuru was pushed to the ground. Hearing Rushing's words, she became furious, anxious, and heartbroken all at once. The emotional turmoil triggered premature labor. The Marquis's residence immediately descended into chaos. The midwife took one look at Song Yuru's belly and shook her head dismissively. "This belly is far too large. I dare not take responsibility for such a risky delivery. Hurry and fetch the physician from Chuanhe Hall," Rushing screamed. "The physician is a man. How could he possibly deliver the baby? You must attend to madam at once." He Yuanju was away on official business, and the old madam had gone to the temple to burn incense. The entire Zhennan Marquis estate was left under Rushing's authority. Thanks to the Marquis's favor, her words still carried weight among the stewards. She refused to summon a physician, insisting only on a midwife, declaring that male physicians were outsiders forbidden from assisting in childbirth. Song Yuru writhed in excruciating pain, but the midwife was at a loss. "The baby is too large, and the position is wrong. How could they let the mother eat so much? She's grown so plump, how is she supposed to deliver like this?" Yuan Rushing dismissed the servants from the room and entered herself. Gazing at Song Yuru, who was nearly unconscious, she whispered, "The Marquis has given orders. If it comes to it, save the child. This is the Marquis's heir. You know what must be done. If necessary, cut open her belly and take the child out." The midwife broke into a cold sweat and knelt on the floor. "Spare us, madam. We midwives cannot do such a thing. Please summon a physician." With that, she abandoned even her own bundle and fled outside. Song Yuru was in such pain she nearly fainted. Hearing Yuan Rushing's words and realizing her life was at stake, she shouted sharply, "How dare you harm me? When the Marquis returns, he'll never let you off." Yuan Rushing approached with scissors in hand. "By the time the Marquis returns, you'll already be dead. How will you make him not spare me then? What the Marquis cares about is his heir. Don't worry after you die. I'll treat your child as my own. Soon enough, he'll only recognize me as his mother. Just lie still quietly while I cut open your belly and take the baby out." Song Yuru wanted to scream for help, but Rushing covered her mouth. The scissors in her hand sliced straight through Song Yuru's abdomen, and a sharp scream drew the attention of those outside. The door was kicked open. It was He Yuanju returning. Yuan Rushing was kicked aside, crashing straight into the wall and spitting out a mouthful of blood. "You wretch, what are you doing? Doctor, save her quickly." But the baby was simply too large, and too much time had passed. Song Yuru couldn't be saved. In the end, the child had to be cut alive from her womb. "Marquis, your wife has passed, but your young master survives." The physician sighed, shaking his head as he departed. He Yuanju stared at the blood filling the room and the overwhelming stench of gore. Nearly driven to madness, he grabbed Yuan Rushing by the throat and dragged her up. "You venomous witch, why did you kill Yuru?" Yuan Rushing laughed, half mad as she replied, "My dear he, since I cannot bear children, and now she has given us one, isn't this perfect? We can be together forever, and the child will call me mother. When the time comes, I'll sell off all your concubines, and the Marquis's household will have only the two of us. We can be together forever." He Yuanju shoved her away violently. "You're insane, utterly insane. Who would ever stay with a madwoman like you? Someone, take her to the magistrate's office and let the authorities decide her fate." Yuan Rushing struggled desperately. "You can't send me to the magistrate. I'm your lawfully wedded wife. The principal wife. I'm the Marchioness of Zhennan. How dare any of you lay hands on me?" Immediately, someone gagged her and forcibly escorted her to the government office. Yuan Rushing was sentenced to execution after autumn for plotting to murder the Marchioness of Zhennan. She pleaded desperately to see He Yuanju one last time before her death, so He Yuanju went to the prison to meet her. Clutching tightly at He Yuanju's sleeve, she begged, "My lord, save me." He Yuanju gently pulled her hand away. "You've been sentenced to execution after autumn. No one can save you now. I'll soon take another wife and won't visit you again. There's no need to send messages anymore." He took out a paper from his pouch. "This is the letter of divorce. From now on, you're no longer part of the Zhennan Marquis household. We're finished." Yuan Rushing froze, staring at the letter of divorce. You're actually divorcing me, he yuaned you. Our Marquis's household cannot keep someone as venomous as you. Wan Rusheng burst into laughter, growing increasingly hysterical. Then suddenly pulled out her hairpin and plunged it straight into He Yuanzhou's neck. Blood sprayed from his throat. By the time the jailers discovered them, it was too late. Both had already breathed their last, one inside the cell and one outside, their blood pooling across the floor. I received this news precisely on the day of my wedding. Mother said Aunt Zhao had gone mad, so she had her sent to the family temple to live out her remaining days. Watching the willow catkins drifting past the window, I realized spring had come again. All that had passed was now behind me, and a new life was just beginning. After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. If you hadn't gotten into the wrong bridal sedan, Wanna would have been my wife long ago. You've ruined both Wanna's life and mine, exhausted and gravely ill. I listened in shock to my husband's icy words. 6 years of marriage to Zhao Huairan, 6 years of supporting him to become Yang Kingdom's foremost imperial merchant, couldn't outweigh his regret over failing to marry his beloved. 6 years ago, I, who should have married into the Marquis's household, found myself in the wrong bridal sedan by cruel fate, forced to wed Zhao Huairan, a mere merchant's son, from being a nobleman's wife to becoming a merchant's spouse. I had never once felt regret. Who would have thought Zhao Huairan harbored resentment all along? How utterly laughable. A mouthful of blood spewed forth, severing my last thread of life. The October chill in Yangjing was particularly biting, with patches of unmelted snow still clinging to the ground. Lin residence. Young mistress, the Marquis of Xuanping's household has come to propose marriage. The maidservant Lanxiang came running in with a face full of joy. I opened my eyes. I had actually been reborn 6 years in the past. This year I was 17, and the Marquis of Xuanping's household had finally come to the Lin family to propose marriage to me. Wang Lingrui, the heir of Marquis Xuanping's household, is my betrothed by prenatal arrangement. Back then, my birth mother Lady Pei and the Marchioness of Xianping were praying for blessings at Daxing Temple when they encountered bandits. My mother saved the Marchioness' life, which led to this marriage alliance. Otherwise, how could the daughter of a minor fourth-rank Ministry of Revenue official like the Lin family ever marry into a Marquis household? Lanxiang came rushing in, panting heavily. As I looked at her youthful face, I never could have imagined that in my past life, this maid who was like a sister to me would alter my fate. I forcefully suppressed the resentment in my heart, knowing now was not yet the time to punish her. The matter of the arranged marriage swap in my past life couldn't have been accomplished by her alone. I won't let any of those involved get away with it. What date did the Marquis's household set for the wedding? It's the 16th day of the 12th lunar month. But Madam suggested moving it to the 18th so the young miss could marry on the same day as second young miss. Hearing this, I understood clearly. This was indeed orchestrated by my stepmother, Madam Han. My birth mother passed away from illness a year after I was born, and my father quickly remarried a merchant's daughter, Madam Han, as his second wife. After Madam Han entered our household, she gave birth to a daughter, Lin Qingwan. Although Lin Qingwan was also a legitimate daughter of the Lin household, her mother Madam Han came from merchant origins, a lowly status, making it difficult to find a suitable match for her among noble families in the capital. On Lin Qingwan's 15th birthday, the year she came of age, the Zhao family, imperial merchants from the outskirts of the capital, came to propose marriage between their son, Zhao Huairan, and Lin Qingwan. After careful consideration, the Lin family agreed to the marriage between Lin Qingwan and Zhao Huairan. Yet unexpectedly, 2 months later, the Marquis of Xuanping's household, who were originally supposed to propose marriage next year, also came forward with a proposal for me ahead of time, and so, Lin Qingwan and I ended up choosing the same day for our weddings. On my wedding day, I boarded the wrong bridal sedan in confusion and ended up married into the Zhao family, while Lin Qingwan married into the Marquis's household. By the time the mistake was discovered, Lin Qingwan and Wang Lingrui had already completed their wedding ceremony, forcing me to accept the switched marriage and wed Zhao Huairan. Thinking of this, I discreetly had Lanxiang step out and summoned Chuanqing to come in. Chuanqing was also my senior maid. However, in my past life, before my wedding, Chuanqing's elder brother and sister-in-law came to the Lin family to redeem her freedom. They said they'd found Chuanqing a good family, wanting her to leave the household and marry into happiness. Though reluctant at the time, I didn't wish to delay Chuanqing's marriage, so I prepared generous dowry gifts for her and released her from service to be wed. Yet several years later, when news of Chuanqing reached me again, I learned her brother and sister-in-law had married her off to become the concubine of an old landlord in his 50s. Within 2 years of that marriage, she'd been beaten to death and buried in the wilderness beyond the city outskirts. I feel so guilty, blaming myself for not properly vetting Chuanqing's situation and sending her into the tiger's den. This time, I won't let Chuanqing be deceived by her brother and sister-in-law. I will make sure they receive the punishment they deserve. After a while, Chuanqing walked in, carrying a plate of walnut cakes. Young lady, your nose is truly sharp. I had just finished making the walnut cakes when you urged me to bring them. Chuanqing handed me a walnut pastry while chatting and laughing. Chuanqing was 16, a year younger than me. Steady and reliable by nature, utterly loyal to me. Had Chuanqing accompanied me to my wedding in my past life, the incident of entering the wrong bridal sedan would never have occurred. As I ate the walnut pastry she'd just made, waves of emotion rose within me. I instructed Chuanqing that during this period, she wasn't to leave the estate without my permission, but should stay properly within our courtyard. In her previous life, Chuanqing's brother and sister-in-law had taken advantage of her leaving the mansion to pester her into acknowledging their familial ties. This time, I'll make sure they never lay eyes on Chuanqing again. After the people from Xianping Marquis's household left, my father summoned me to his study, where Lady Han and Lin Qingwan were already seated. Shua, come sit here. Lady Han gestured eagerly for me to sit beside her. Seeing this mother-daughter pair, I struggled to conceal the hatred in my heart and calmly took my seat. Shua, today the Marquis of Xuanping's family came to propose marriage. The wedding date has been set for the 18th day of the 12th month, the same day as your sister's wedding. Having both my daughters married on the same day, I can finally give your mother a proper account. Her spirit in heaven will surely be comforted. Lady Han spoke first, dabbing at the non-existent tears at the corners of her eyes with a handkerchief. Lin Qingwan also began wiping her tears. Watching their theatrical performance, I silently cursed myself for being such a fool. In my past life, seeing this scene, I foolishly got so moved that I hugged Lady Han and cried with her utterly irredeemable stupidity. Ahem, let's get to business. Shua, this is your birth mother's dowry list. All the dowry items are stored in the backyard warehouse. Have your mother help you properly sort through these dowry items and add them all to your own dowry. Father's light cough interrupted the performance of Madame Han and her daughter. Father was a man with a cold heart. Yet he tried to maintain an appearance of fairness. On the surface, he handed over mother's dowry to me, but he had Madame Han assist in organizing it. This way, when Madame Han distributed mother's dowry to Lin Qingwan, I would have no grounds to blame him if I didn't pursue the matter. Madame Han and Lin Qingwan, who benefited from it, would be grateful to him. If I did pursue it, he could righteously shift the blame onto Madame Han. Either way, he would always appear to be a fair man. Father, since my sister and I are getting married on the same day, and mother has already worked so hard preparing her dowry, I truly can't bear to see her exhaust herself further by arranging mine. As for the dowry left by my late mother, let's entrust Aunt with organizing it. Aunt once mentioned that mother left instructions before her passing that when I marry, Aunt would handle my dowry arrangements. I believe Aunt wouldn't go back on mother's dying wish. Both father and Madame Han looked at me in astonishment upon hearing this, never expecting I'd be aware of such matters. In my previous life, when my aunt learned that I had set a wedding date with the Marquis's household, she came specifically to prepare my dowry, mentioning that it was my mother's dying wish. However, in that lifetime, Lady Han didn't withhold my mother's dowry in order to arrange the marriage exchange, so I persuaded my aunt not to interfere and let Lady Han handle it. Seeing that Lady Han indeed didn't dare to embezzle my mother's remaining dowry, my aunt reluctantly agreed. Yet in the end, my entire dowry was sent to the Marquis's household and became Lin Qingwan's dowry. When I suggested reclaiming my dowry, my father flatly refused. "You're the one who boarded the wrong bridal sedan. This is all your fault. Moreover, your sister married into the Marquis's household in your stead. These dowry items are only fitting for the wife of a Marquis's heir. Now that you've married a mere merchant, how could you possibly deserve such lavish dowry gifts?" My father's cold indifference chilled me to the bone. This time, my dowry would accompany me to the Marquis's residence. No one would lay a finger on it. After some thought, father nodded in agreement. He knew full well that my maternal aunt had a fiery temperament. Once she intervened, no one could stop her. A flicker of resentment crossed Madame Han's face, though it vanished as quickly as it appeared. Within days, Aunt Xie arrived. Seeing her again, I couldn't hold back my tears. In my previous life, I married into the Zhao family, and not long after the wedding, I followed Zhao Huairan back to his ancestral home in Huizhou, 300 kilometers away. After that, returning to the capital was no easy task. For the first 2 years, Zhao Huairan would take me back to the capital whenever he had the opportunity to deliver tribute silk. In the following years, Zhao Huairan stopped bringing me along, and I could only focus on managing the household and serving my parents-in-law. From then on, I never saw my aunt again until she passed away. My aunt had always doted on me the most. When she learned about the marriage swap, she and my uncle made a special trip to the Zhao family. Only after confirming I was willing did they reluctantly leave. "Shua, don't cry. Did the Han family bully you? Tell your aunt what's wrong, and I'll stand up for you." Seeing me cry so bitterly, my aunt turned to confront the Han family, but I quickly grabbed her sleeve. "It's nothing, Auntie. Shua just missed you terribly after not seeing you for so long. This time everything can still be changed. I will alter all of this. I won't let family bonds turn into regret again." Under my aunt's forceful intervention, Madame Han had no choice but to hand over all that remained of my mother's dowry. Looking at the lengthy dowry list, I finally breathed a sigh of relief. These belongings of my mother's have finally returned to me this time. I must protect them well. In the blink of an eye, it's already November. "Young mistress, this old servant has already sent someone to investigate the matter you entrusted us with last time." The speaker was aunt's trusted servant Mama Chang. "Quick, tell me, what kind of people are Chuanqing's brother and sister-in-law?" I quickly signaled Mother Chang to close the doors and windows, then urged her to tell me quickly. "This Chuanqing's brother, Hu San, is a petty thief and local ruffian. Back then, he sold Chuanqing precisely because he injured someone and needed money for compensation. Their parents died of anger because of him, and all these years he's been searching for Chuanqing's whereabouts. A few days ago, someone told him Chuanqing was in the Lin residence, so he's been lurking outside the Lin household these past few days." My heart skipped a beat when I heard that. For so many years, Hu San couldn't find any trace of Chuanqing, yet coincidentally, someone told him her whereabouts just a few days ago. "Did you find out who told him Chuanqing was at the Lin residence?" "We did. It was one of the outer courtyard stewards of the Lin household." Suddenly, I understood everything. All of Chuanqing's misfortunes in our past life had been carefully orchestrated. After sending Chang Memar away, I looked at Chuanqing, who was attending to me, stepped forward, and hugged her tightly. Chuanqing looked puzzled but remained silent, letting me sob against her shoulder. A few days later, Hu San, unable to wait any longer for Chuanqing to leave the house, finally came knocking on our door himself. After receiving the message, I invited Hu San into the mansion and arranged for him to stay in a guest room in the rear courtyard. The rear courtyard guest rooms were typically where stewards from the front courtyard waited to be summoned. I had decorated the parlor with numerous small but valuable items. Sitting inside, Hu San eyed these precious objects, his fingers itching uncontrollably. In the end, Hu San didn't wait for Chuanqing, but instead made off with quite a few stolen items. Once Hu San succeeded in his scheme, I had the steward report him to the authorities, and the officers caught him red-handed with the stolen goods at his home. Hu San was beaten half to death by the officers and thrown into prison. He wouldn't see daylight again for years. I didn't tell Chuanqing about this. A scoundrel like Hu San wasn't worth her thoughts. Better she believed him already dead. A few more days passed. And soon it would be the 12th lunar month. Just like in her previous life, Lady Han embroidered Lin Qingwan's wedding dress anew, making it identical to mine. After my wedding dress was finished, no one had seen it yet. It had always been in Lan Xiang's care, secretly. I watched as Lan Xiang took my wedding dress to Lin Qingwan's side, allowing Lin Qingwan's embroiderers to copy the design. I didn't expose Lan Xiang. Instead, I quietly hid the new wedding dress I had asked my aunt to purchase for me. Lan Xiang had been sneaking out every evening lately to secretly meet with a young steward from the outer courtyard in the garden. The man was handsome and literate. Though young, he had already become a junior steward in the front courtyard. Many maidservants in the Lin household fancied him, and Chaoa from the main kitchen was one of them. Chaoa was the daughter of Nurse Zhong, Madame Han's personal attendant. As Nurse Zhong held such an influential position, Chaoa bullied other maidservants with impunity. No one dared cross her. In her previous life, Lan Xiang followed Li Wanqing to the Marquis's residence, but not long after, she returned to the Lin household and married a minor steward from the front courtyard. Lan Xiang, an ordinary-looking maid, managed to marry this handsome young steward. It seemed this was Hansha's promise to her. These past few days, I've used the excuse of craving pastries to have Chaoa personally deliver them to me in the evening. This time, taking advantage of Lan Xiang and the steward's secret rendezvous in the garden, I had Chaoa bring over the pastries again. To reach my courtyard from the main kitchen, one had to pass through the garden. It was there that Chaoa happened to witness Lan Xiang's secret rendezvous with the young steward on her way back, never expecting anyone would dare steal her man. Chaoa immediately flew at Lan Xiang, clawing fiercely until she left bloody scratches across Lan Xiang's face. The commotion soon alerted Madame Han. When I saw Lan Xiang's face covered in bloody gashes, I knew her beauty had been ruined. That young steward would never marry her now. I didn't plead for Lan Xiang's sake, but instead interceded for Chaoa, asking Madame Han not to be too harsh on her. Mother, although Lan Xiang is my chief maid, she dared to commit such disgraceful conduct as meeting a man secretly at midnight. I absolutely dare not plead for her mercy. Please punish her severely according to our family rules to serve as a warning to others. As for Chaoa, I beg you to be lenient. If I hadn't been greedy for snacks late at night and sent Chaoa to deliver pastries, she wouldn't have witnessed such filthy affairs. Chaoa is also a victim. Nanny Zhong looked at me gratefully while Madame Han's face darkened. Madame Han had been waiting for me to plead for Lan Xiang's sake, so she could gracefully give her an out and let the matter pass lightly. To her surprise, I showed absolutely no mercy and directly instructed her to punish Lan Xiang according to the family rules. Madame Han hesitated, surrounded by servants on all sides. Any hint of unfairness in her handling would cast doubt on her long-standing reputation as household manager. If gossipmongers spread word of this, the entire Lin family's reputation would become laughingstock among outsiders. She was already a second wife, subject to criticism. If she gained any more unfavorable reputation, she might truly be divorced by her father. After hesitating for a long time, Madame Han hardened her heart and ordered Lan Xiang to be caned 20 times before being sold out of the household. The minor steward was caned 20 times and banished to an outer estate, while Chaoa was penalized 3 months' wages. Upon hearing this, Lan Xiang collapsed to the ground, casting pitiful glances at me. Unable to believe that I wouldn't plead for her, recalling my past life, when Lan Xiang helped me board the wrong bridal sedan, betrayed me, and doomed me to a miserable existence, my gaze turned icy. Lan Xiang shivered under my cold stare, realizing I might have uncovered everything. Terrified, she turned to Madame Han, pleading desperately, "Madam, you can't treat me like this, I did it all for you." But before she could finish, Mama Zhong stepped forward and stuffed a rag into her mouth. Soon, Lan Xiang was stretched over a long bench, letting out continuous wails until her cries could no longer be heard. I watched as Lan Xiang received 20 strokes of the rod, left uncertain whether she was alive or dead, before returning to the courtyard satisfied. The next day, I heard from Chuanxing that Lan Xiang hadn't lasted until dawn. She had already breathed her last. Lan Xiang's death did nothing to disrupt the wedding preparations underway in the manor. in the blink of an eye. The 18th day of the 12th lunar month arrived, the day of the wedding. Early in the morning, I was roused to begin dressing, with Madame Han sending her trusted attendant, Mother Li, to assist me. "Young mistress, your hair is done, it's time to put on your wedding dress." With those words, Mother Li went to fetch the wedding gown hanging in the room. I gave Chuanqing a meaningful glance, and she went to the inner room nearby, fetching a wedding dress with different embroidery patterns. "I'll wear this wedding dress." I walked toward Chuanqing and pointed at the dress in her hands as I spoke. Madame Li's face stiffened, and though she wanted to persuade me further, my icy gaze stopped her. After helping me into my wedding dress, Mema Li hurriedly left. I knew she was going back to report to Madame Han. I didn't stop her, but turned to instruct Chuanqing instead. "Chuanqing, today you must stay close by my side and see me onto the Marquis's bridal sedan." Chuanqing nodded resolutely, her gaze firm. Some time ago, I told Chuanqing that I had a dream where I boarded the wrong bridal sedan by mistake and ended up marrying Zhao Huiran. Chuanqing thought I'd merely had a nightmare and vowed she wouldn't let such a horror come to pass on my wedding day. She'd stay by my side every moment. This comforted me greatly. Not long after, someone entered the courtyard. It was old Qian from the main kitchen, carrying 2 food boxes in her hands. "Young mistress, this is the 100 Suns Lotus Blessing Soup prepared by Madame's orders. She insists you must take at least 1 sip to receive its blessings." Old maid Qian opened a food box containing 2 bowls of lotus seed soup. She handed 1 bowl to me and passed the other to Chuanqing. "Miss Xing'er is fortunate too. As the young mistress's dowry maid, Madame specifically instructed that you should also have a bowl." Old woman Qian fawned at Chuanqing as she spoke. I frowned slightly and gave Chuanqing a meaningful look, but she didn't rush to drink it. In my past life, Madame Han had also prepared 2 bowls of lotus seed soup, but she only made me and Lin Qingwan drink it right before we boarded our bridal sedans. After drinking it, I sat in the swaying sedan chair feeling dizzy, and arrived at the Zhao family in a daze. This time, having me drink lotus seed soup so early, there must be something wrong with this soup. "Take this to second sister first. The lotus seed soup is still too hot, I'll drink it later." I glanced at another food box beside Granny Qian and set the bowl down. Dismissing her, Granny Qian froze, then quickly said, "This lotus seed soup has been simmering all night, it's not hot at all. Once eldest miss finishes it, this old servant can take the bowl back on the way, saving another trip." I slammed the table, my face darkening, startling Granny Qian into retreating immediately. Only after Granny Qian had left did I instruct Chuanqing to summon the 2 maidservants from the courtyard, presenting them with these 2 bowls of lotus seed soup as rewards. Before long, the maidservant who drank Chuanqing's bowl of lotus seed soup clutched her stomach in pain and rushed straight to the outhouse. Surprisingly, the other maidservant who drank my bowl of lotus seed soup showed no signs of discomfort whatsoever. Chuanqing's face turned pale, even if she were foolish. She knew now that there was something wrong with her bowl of soup. No wonder I hadn't let her drink it. I looked at Chuanqing, reached out to hold her hand, and reassured her not to worry. This time, I wouldn't let Lady Han succeed. The panic in Chuanqing's eyes gradually eased under my soothing. Before long, the clamor of gongs and drums erupted outside. The wedding processions of Marquis Xuanping's household and the Zhao family had arrived, dressed in bridal attire and holding fans. Lin Qingwan and I entered the grand hall to bid farewell to my father and Lady Han. Just like in my past life, Prince Wang Lingrui and I served tea to my father and Lady Han. My father offered me some conventional advice about serving my husband and raising children, while Lady Han gifted me a white jade bracelet. Next came the ritual of drinking the departure tea, symbolizing blessings and a woman leaving her family with purity intact. When the tea was presented, I deliberately took only a small sip. When I got up and moved aside, I realized that Chuanqing, who had been by my side all along, had suddenly disappeared. She had been replaced by an unfamiliar maid, and my heart tightened as I became fully alert. Soon after, a wave of dizziness washed over my mind. I immediately understood the tea earlier had indeed been tampered with. I pulled out the golden hairpin hidden in my sleeve and gently pricked my thigh. A sharp, intense pain jolted me awake momentarily. I gripped the golden hairpin, pricking my thigh with it from time to time to force myself to stay alert. Soon after, identical red bridal veils were placed over both Lin Qingwan's head and mine. After completing the elaborate departure rituals, we arrived at the main gate. At this moment, the unfamiliar maidservant beside me guided me toward the bridal sedan chair. I walked up to the bridal sedan but didn't enter immediately. I knew this maid must have brought me before the Zhao family's sedan. Just as I was about to lift the veil and expose everything, a familiar voice came through. "Wait, the bride has boarded the wrong sedan." It was the voice of Prince Wang Lingrui. He had recognized me. "The Marquis's bridal sedan is over there." After Wang Lingrui finished speaking, the maid beside me immediately took 2 frightened steps back. I lifted a corner of my red veil and met Wang Lingrui's gaze. Our eyes locked briefly before I gently lowered the veil and walked toward him. Upon recognizing me, Wang Lingrui wore an expression that said I knew it, yet he cast a puzzled glance at the maid behind me. When I walked back toward the Marquis's bridal sedan, the surrounding crowd seemed to finally snap out of their daze. Am I seeing things? That bride almost got into the wrong sedan. The Marquis of Xuanping's procession has 8 bearers and extravagant arrangements. How could the Lin family send the wrong bride? This is utterly absurd. Thankfully the heir noticed in time, or this could have been disastrous. I listened to the murmurs of the surrounding crowd as I slowly settled into the Hu Mansion's 8-man palanquin. Soon after, the Hu Mansion's wedding procession carried me away with gongs and drums sounding, heading toward the mansion. I lifted the palanquin curtain and saw Madame Han standing at the main gate with a gloomy expression, while Lin Qingwan walked toward the Zhao family's bridal sedan chair, turning back every few steps. I breathed a long sigh of relief this time. I had finally changed the outcome from my previous life. At the Marquis of Xuanping's residence, Wang Lingrui helped me alight from the bridal sedan chair, and amidst the crowd's cheers, we completed the wedding ceremony. I was no longer the bashful maiden of my past life, sitting calmly in the bridal chamber. After what seemed like an eternity, the door creaked open as Wang Lingrui entered. "May I see that ruby pendant at your waist?" Wang Lingrui didn't rush to lift my bridal veil, but suddenly asked about the ruby pendant at my waist. I sighed softly, relieved that my gamble had paid off. This ruby pendant was no ordinary one. It was shaped like twin fish, head to tail, forming an unusual design. Legend had it that this ruby pendant was a love token between a princess and her consort from the previous dynasty. After surviving wars and turmoil, it eventually became part of my mother's dowry. In my previous life, this ruby pendant became part of Lin Qingwan's dowry after being included in my own bridal trousseau. When Wang Lingrui saw this item among Lin Qingwan's dowry, he asked for it, but was firmly refused by Lin Qingwan. The reason Lin Qingwan refused was that after marrying into the Marquis's household, her husband Wang Lingrui had never consummated their marriage. As his heart already belonged to his beloved concubine Liu Rushuang, he wanted this ruby pendant precisely to gift it to Liu Rushuang. I deliberately wore this ruby pendant at my waist today just to catch Wang Lingrui's attention. To my surprise, Wang Lingrui did notice the ruby pendant and kept watching me, which was why he stepped in promptly to stop me from boarding the wrong bridal sedan. Without hesitation, I unfastened the ruby pendant from my waist and handed it to Wang Lingrui. Wang Lingrui was overjoyed and was about to reach for it when I spoke up. "Young master, if you fancy this jade pendant, I shall gift it to you. However, my maidservant Chuanxing, who came with me as part of my dowry, has suddenly gone missing today. I'm deeply concerned for her safety and hope you could send someone to the Lin residence now to find her. This jade pendant is utterly useless to me. Since Wang Lingrui helped me today, I'll give it to him as repayment for his favor. Yet my primary concern remains Chuanxing's safety. Having him search for her should be a trivial matter for him." As expected, Wang Lingrui accepted the pendant with delight and readily promised to find Chuanxing. But just as he turned to leave, he still uttered those words, that he wouldn't consummate our marriage and would instead stay overnight in Liu Rushuang's courtyard. Contrary to Wang Lingrui's expectations, I didn't make a scene but obediently agreed to everything. This gave Wang Lingrui a twinge of guilt toward me. Not long after, Chuanxing was brought to the Marquis's residence. Sure enough, while I was serving morning tea, Chuanxing was drugged unconscious and locked in the firewood shed. Seeing Chuanxing safe and sound finally put my mind at ease. This time, I'll properly be the heir's wife of the Marquis's household. In her past life, Lin Qingwan only learned after marrying into the Marquis's household that Wang Lingrui had a beloved concubine named Liu Rushuang. Because Liu Rushuang was already 6 months pregnant, the Marquis's household had no choice but to propose marriage to the Lin family ahead of schedule. Liu Rushuang told everyone she would bear the Marquis's first son. This infuriated Lin Qingwan, who targeted Liu Rushuang at every turn. However, Lin Qingwan's petty inner household tactics were no match for Liu Rushuang, who hailed from the pleasure quarters. In her 3rd year of marriage into the Marquis's household, Lin Qingwan was framed by Liu Rushuang and was divorced by the Marquis's family on charges of harming descendants. In the end, it was Zhao Huairan who secretly took Lin Qingwan in at his suburban residence near the capital, and so Zhao Huairan and Lin Qingwan began their illicit affair. This time, I won't let myself fall for Wang Lingrui. I just want to be a proper wife to the heir and enjoy the life of wealth and privilege that was originally mine. 3 days later, it was time for the traditional bride's return to her parental home. For these 3 days, my mother-in-law, Lady Hu, has been extremely pleased with me and bestowed many fine gifts upon me. I completely ignored the provocations from the concubine Liu Rushuang, devoting myself wholeheartedly each day to serving my parents-in-law. This not only rendered all of Liu Rushuang's petty schemes against me ineffective but also earned her reprimands from my mother-in-law. To plead for leniency toward his concubine, the heir Wang Lingrui agreed to accompany me back to my maiden home. I returned to my parents' home wearing the exquisite hair ornaments bestowed by my mother-in-law. Dazzling from head to toe, even Wang Lingrui couldn't take his eyes off me. When we arrived at the Lin residence, Lin Qingwan and Zhao Huairan hadn't returned yet. Hansha looked at my splendid hair ornaments and attire, forcing a strained smile while her eyes brimmed with resentment. I took in Hansha's expression with cold amusement, knowing full well that when Lin Qingwan returned, there would be quite a spectacle to witness. As expected, while we were sitting drinking tea, a servant came running in. "Master, the second young miss has returned alone." Immediately afterward, Lin Qingwan entered weeping and wailing. Only after Madame Han's repeated comforting did Lin Qingwen finally speak. "Mother, this Zhao Huairan is nothing but a swindler. The Zhao family lost their status as imperial merchants even before the marriage proposal was made. Now Zhao Huairan wants to sell their suburban mansion and take your daughter back to his ancestral home in Huizhou. Your daughter refuses to leave the capital, refuses to leave her parents." Lin Qingwan wept bitterly, her face streaked with tears, while Madame Han turned pale with shock, never imagining the Zhao family had fallen so low. The reason we chose the Zhao family in the first place was because they held the status of imperial merchants. Not only were they immensely wealthy, but they also had powerful backing at court. Who would have thought that in the end, we would be the ones tricked by the Zhao family? Lin Qingwan wept and then looked pitifully at Wang Lingrui. Wang Lingrui frowned, his eyes showing not a trace of tenderness or sympathy. He immediately turned to his father and said that there were matters at the Marquis's estate that required his attention, then insisted on taking me back with him. Of course, I did not go against his wishes. After bidding farewell to my father, I quickly followed Wang Lingrui out. As I turned to leave, I caught Lin Qingwan casting a venomous glare my way, as if resenting why it wasn't me who married into the Zhao family. In my past life, when I married into the Zhao family, Zhao Huairan confessed the family's predicament to me on our wedding night. He vowed that if I returned to Huizhou with him, within 3 years he would surely help the Zhao family reclaim their status as imperial merchants. I believed his promise and followed him willingly from the capital, helping him purge domestic traitors, outwit the second branch and half-brothers, and establish family prestige. She even personally visited her uncle at the Ministry of Revenue to seek help, connecting the Zhao family with the princess's estate. Within 3 years, she actually managed to restore the Zhao family's status as imperial merchants. But who could have imagined that in this very year, Zhao Huairan secretly began an affair with Lin Qingwan, who had been divorced by the Marquis's household, behind my back. The two lived together discreetly in the capital, leaving me alone in Huiju to care for his parents and manage the entire Zhao household. It wasn't until 3 years later, when I fell gravely ill from exhaustion and was nearing death, that he finally returned. At this time, Lin Qingwan was also pregnant. They wanted to poison me so that Lin Qingwan could openly become the legitimate wife and their child could be the rightful heir. This time, I didn't enter the wrong bridal sedan nor marry into the Zhao family. Zhao Huairan can forget about easily reclaiming his status as imperial merchant. Returning to the Marquis of Shuamping's residence, I devoted myself to serving my parents-in-law and soon gained control of the household management. Wang Lingrui still doted on Liu Rushuang excessively, and I also instructed the servants to take good care of her, and so, Liu Rushuang soon reached her delivery date. After enduring labor for a full day and night, she finally gave birth to a son, bringing the Marquis's household its first heir. However, due to complications during childbirth, Liu Rushuang suffered physical damage that made intimate relations with Wang Lingrui increasingly difficult. Gradually, Wang Lingrui stopped favoring Liu Rushuang exclusively, and the number of concubines in the rear courtyard began to multiply. I sneered inwardly, as expected. A man's enduring devotion simply doesn't exist. Liu Rushuang, neglected day after day by Wang Lingrui, developed a heart ailment and soon passed away. I took in the son she had struggled to give birth to and raised him as my own, registering him under my name. With a child by my side, my position as the wife of the heir was firmly secured. Under my management, all the concubines in the rear courtyard became thoroughly obedient. On Lin Qingwan's side, after making several scenes, she ultimately followed Zhao Huairan back to Huiju. However, the pair who had secretly carried on in their previous lives now shared no affection whatsoever. During this time, under the guise of a powerful noble from the capital, I covertly reached out to the second branch of the Zhao family, helping them forge numerous connections with influential figures in their past life. The second branch of the Zhao family had been ambitious, constantly seeking control over the family's authority. Now, with my support behind the scenes, Zhao Huairan would undoubtedly find himself beset by enemies in the business world. In the blink of an eye, less than a year later, Lin Qingwan returned to the capital. It turned out that Zhao Huairan had asked her to seek her father's help in smoothing relations with the Ministry of Revenue to exchange a batch of raw silk prepared by the ministry for tribute. Under Lin Qingwan's pleading, her father agreed to the matter. When I heard about this, I sneered inwardly. In my past life, this batch of silk had a unique color but suffered from a fatal flaw. It was difficult to dye. A traitorous servant around Zhao Huairan had colluded with outsiders, deliberately setting him up. In my previous life, I obtained advance information from my uncle in the Ministry of Revenue. Not only did I prevent this incident from happening, but I also made the second branch of the Zhao family take on this mess, completely dragging them down so they could never recover. I also followed the clues and uncovered the traitor hiding by Zhao Huairan's side. My father didn't get along with my uncle and usually had no contact with him, so naturally he didn't know there were problems with this batch of tribute-bound raw silk. Soon after Zhao Huairan acquired this batch of silk, it caused huge losses for the Zhao family and made them miss the launch of their new satin products. Zhao Huairan was isolated by his Zhao clan relatives, while the second branch of the family seized the opportunity to demand division of household assets, pushing the Zhao family to the brink of disintegration. Mother Zhao blamed all this misfortune on Lin Qingwan, calling her a jinx who had brought nothing but bad luck to the Zhao family since her marriage into the household. Before long, Mother Zhao pressured Zhao Huairan to divorce Lin Qingwan. In this lifetime, Zhao Huairan, who had never harbored much affection for Lin Qingwan to begin with, didn't hesitate. With a single letter of divorce, he cast Lin Qingwan aside. After being divorced, Lin Qingwan returned to the capital alone, only to encounter bandits on the way, vanishing without a trace ever since. Upon hearing this news, Lady Han fainted from grief and passed away shortly after from illness. A year later, the second branch of the Zhao family took over the Huiju properties and drove Zhao Huairan out of Huiju. Zhao Huairan returned to the capital and opened a silk shop there, but his business never took off. I heard this silk fabric shop has terrible feng shui whenever business starts picking up. Either the storefront catches fire or the roof leaks, with strange incidents happening constantly. One day, I stopped my carriage and walked into Zhao Huairan's silk fabric shop, where a shrewd-looking man with triangular eyes quickly came forward to greet me. "Madam, please come inside. What kind of silk fabric would you like?" Looking at the clerk's demeanor, I suddenly realized the spy planted by the imperial merchant Wu family beside Zhao Huairan had never been rooted out. This was precisely why Zhao Huairan could never make his comeback. My heart was filled with melancholy, perhaps compared to letting Zhao Huairan die outright. Stripping him of the ability to restore the Zhao family's status as imperial merchants for life would torment him more than death. 2 more years passed, and I found a compatible junior steward for Chuanxing within the Marquis's household. Arranging her marriage, the heir, Wang Lingrui, had also matured, no longer indulging in the concubines of the inner courtyard, and had become a deputy commander in the city defense battalion, accompanying my mother-in-law, the Marquise, to various social gatherings in the capital. I became a veritable noblewoman of the city. This is the life I truly deserve to enjoy. After hearing the 2 stories above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.